Welcome to the ABQ Show, where we talk with interesting people that make Albuquerque a great place to live. And our special guest this week is the owner of Hans Wittler's Auto Group, the man who keeps the cars of Albuquerque running, Roger Wittler. Roger, great to have you on the ABQ Show.
Thanks for having me down today. Appreciate that.
So Roger, talk to me a little bit about the history of the Hans Wittler Auto Group. I know that name, Hans Wittler, is very important to the history of it, but I'd love to hear your take on it.
Yeah, absolutely. My father started the business with my mom about over 40 years ago in 1975. He came over from Germany, and my mom followed him back in 1958. And they came over with $500 in his pocket, I think. But he was trained by Volkswagen and got a job at a local dealership. And the reason he actually left the dealership network back in '75 was just, they were asking him to do things he didn't want to do. They were asking him to be dishonest, So he went out and started his own business,
Yes.
And that's been kind of a history after that. My brother and I pretty much took over the business about 20 years ago.
Yes.
And, we've been running it ever since, so.
Well, it's interesting now. There is a whole network of independently owned and operated auto repair shops that specialize in European and other foreign cars. He was one of the very first ones probably on that train, isn't that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. He was one of the, there's a couple places in town that, there's Dieter's is still around.
Right.
Dieter's German car, there's not very many left from his era, that still, are doing business, so.
Well, so now you and your brother run it, and I know you've recently expanded, gone from one location to two. Just talk a little bit about what you think has brought success to your business in terms of what you do for your clients and your customers and how it's been working out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think our key to success is just that, we were always raised as honest people.
Right.
I mean, that's the main thing you have to do in car repair. Just, tell the truth. That's the simplest thing, right? There's something wrong with your car. We've never had to, tell people or make up work. There's always work on cars.
Right.
And if they don't want it, they don't want it. We don't pressure people into buying things, where they're just there to fix their cars. I think our longevity is to do with that people trust us.
Yes.
We've built a trust with our customers, and unless we get some new customer, all of our customers have been there for many years and they trust us.
Yes.
And that's it's not the greatest industry for honest people. I mean, people can really hurt you on your car, and you don't even know it. If you don't have the technical knowledge, they can make all kinds of things up,
Right.
and sell you things you don't need. And we've never had to do that, and we never will. So and I think that's what why we are so successful.
Now, you specialize in European cars, the German cars. Yes. Are there other makes and models that you work on in addition to those?
We're starting to do more highline cars, whether it be Japanese or even American cars. We've always focused on the European car just because that's what we know. But I find out through other sources, other people always ask me, why don't you work on other cars? And we find out they're just as, if you can work on a German car, you can work on anything. They're always at the forefront of technology, the Germans.
Yes. The bleeding edge if you really
absolutely. Whether you really need that, but they're going to put it in there.
Yes. Well, one of the things when I was at your original shop on the east side of town is, you go into your office and there's server banks there. There's a massive amount of computer technology and technology in general required to do what you do.
Absolutely. We have, now we have subscriptions with individual car companies, as BMW. We have a yearly subscription, which we actually hook into their computer. If we do a program on a car, BMW is aware of that. If a customer takes a car back to BMW, they'll see that we reprogrammed the car up to the latest specifications, the latest software. So and every car line is different. So you end up having subscriptions to all kinds of different car lines, which becomes expensive. It's one of our biggest costs involved with fixing these modern cars. So.
Well, talk to me about the people that do the work. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of technology subscriptions, and then the men and women who work on the vehicles themselves have to be knowledgeable. What's their background? How do they keep up with the training? How does that work?
I've got people from all different backgrounds. I've got guys that one guy worked with his grandfather on Ferraris back in the the 90s, I guess. And then I've got other people that come from the dealer network or trained at BMW or trained at Mercedes, and and then we sort of retrain them after they come from the dealership, to our specifications,
Right.
because there's a lot of stuff that goes on at dealers that would never happen at my shop.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the technology is crazy. One of my friends once said in the business, he said, in the 2004 BMW 7 Series had more computing technology than the space shuttle.
Right.
So,
Yes.
I mean, and that's in 2004. So,
Right.
I mean, that's all, it's only getting worse,
Yes.
or better, whichever way you want to look at it, I guess, right?
More complicated.
Right, more
at a
complicated,
minimum.
more complicated every day. So you have to stay on top of the technology. I mean, otherwise you'll fall by the wayside. You can't have mom and pop shops anymore.
Yes.
That can just, you bring your car in and they, do the oil change, which is fine. But there's no way they're going to be able to. If I'm driving a car, it used to be in the old days. You drive a car from here to Santa Fe or something, you break down by the side of the road, you get a paper clip and put it back together, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I'm sitting on the side of the road, I'm calling a tow truck, right? I mean, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
There's nothing I can do. Even
you
with my
need that
knowledge, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah. You do not carry that big bank of computing
No.
around with you.
Right.
You can't do that.
So.
Well, and even the shade tree mechanic changing your own oil, getting rid of the oil is a big problem.
Absolutely.
And you dump it on the
Absolutely.
ground.
You have
That's
to
a
be,
that's a
environment-
felony, is
Right.
what I understand. So
Yeah,
even that's
we have
difficult.
services. That's another cost of doing business. But we have services that come and take all our waste fluids away and then dispose of them properly.
Yeah.
So that's.
Now, working on the types of cars you do, I know there's a lot of enthusiasm for different brands. Porsche, BMW, Mercedes. There's aficionados of these and many of the other brands. I read things that say that some of the younger generation isn't as enamored of cars, but that's certainly not the case with people who are a little older. And
Right.
I see a lot of younger people driving these various brands. Talk to me about your take on what it means to be a car person, the person who loves a car,
Right.
as it relates to these modern kind of high-tech vehicles that are out there in the
Absolutely.
marketplace.
Yeah, I mean, a car person is, it sort of transcends any barriers or boundaries, even, race, culture, creed, whatever.
Right.
You talk to a car person, all that stuff fades away,
Yes.
and there's still just that basic interest in the freedom of a car, being able to drive it yourself, right?
Right.
Even shifting it yourself is going away. It's
Right.
only on the
the
steering
pedals,
wheel. Yeah, it's
yeah.
only on the steering wheel now. So, but that car person is, like I said, it's, you could, whether it's a lowrider or a brand new Mercedes or whatever, that everybody still has respect for each other in that, as a car person.
Right.
So, it's just, you can always, everything is transcended at that point, and when you're talking to another car person,
Yeah.
you forget about everything else that's going crazy in the world, So.
Well, one of the things I noticed, and you have 2 locations. Your first location up on Elizabeth on the east part of town, I-40,
Yep.
in between Wantabo and Eubank, roughly. And then you have a new location on the north side.
Right.
What brought that about? To add a new location, that's a big step. That's,
Yeah.
you have to be doing something right, but how did that come about?
Yeah, really, it was actually a need for, people that, I had a service advisor that didn't want to work for BMW any longer.
Yeah.
He was tired of the games and things that you have to play to be an employee of a dealership,
Right.
So at the time I had really, no forethought into starting a new business necessarily, but he was such a good service advisor. I thought, well, we need to be on the other side of town anyway. It's more centrally located. We can bring in customers from all over. The West Side, Rio Rancho, Corrales. Placitas.
Yes.
It's even Santa Fe. Some people have told me they would come from Santa Fe if we're just a little closer.
Yeah.
So, it's just
Now you are.
absolutely.
Yeah. Now that new shop is on Wilshire, not Wilshire Boulevard, that's in California, but Wilshire Street there off of Alameda and I-25. Great location for
Yeah.
things. You got
Easy to get to
get
from any
to
direction.
Google to
Yep.
find it, but it's right there, and there's a lot of car activity in that area. Yeah, central
Yeah.
to town. so.
Absolutely, we're near all the dealerships, so
Yeah.
hopefully makes it more convenient for people. That was another, people like to have convenience in this day and age. So
Yes.
the closer you are, to your customer base, the better you're off, I think. So.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. So I don't know if you can do this. A lot of people won't, but I'll ask you anyway.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite brand? You know, not to distinguish, like, you know, you say the car that just you like to drive just a little bit more than
I
otherwise.
could narrow it down to two, probably.
Okay. That's good.
I've always been a Porsche guy. I was always raised a Porsche guy. My
Yeah.
father was a Porsche. You know, he was trained in Porsche, and he was, you know, knew more about Porsches than anybody in this state back in the day. You know, so we've always been around Porsches. But BMW's become one of my favorites. You know, for a number of different reasons. It's just, to me, those cars are easy to work on.
Yes.
You know, other, you know, Volkswagens, great cars. Don't get me wrong. Audi also good cars. I just find the BMWs easy to work on. But that's, you know. And they're fun to drive.
Yeah,
you know?
I was going to
So,
say. And from a mechanic point of view, car person point of view, fun to drive, easy to work on,
Yeah.
doesn't get any better
right.
than that.
Exactly.
All right, so talk to me about some of the things you see in general that people do to their cars. If they wouldn't do them, life would be a lot better for them.
Right.
And they wouldn't, not that we don't want them to come and see you, but
Right.
you know, what are some things that, you know, basic maintenance or some things that you might not hear about on a daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, like that, you know, maintenance is the key. If you follow, you know, even sometimes we do more than the dealerships or even the, you know, the car manufacturer recommends. We'll do an oil change every, you know, some of the BMWs would go 15,000 miles between oil changes, which is, you know, it's too much, you know. So we do it every 7,500, and at that point we'll do an inspection on the vehicle. It's like anything else. It's, you know, your home. If you consistently, you know, let little things go here and there and there and there, you know, all of a sudden you've got this massive project that you've got to try to, you know, overcome, you know, to get your house back up to normal. So it's the same thing with a car, you know. If you bring it in on a regular basis to whoever, you know, the dealership or whatever, you know, recommended services, get the oil changed, have people look, you know, if you have a small problem here, it can always turn into something bigger if you don't address it, you know. So, you know, a lot of times you can put new brake pads on there rather than doing brake pads and rotors if you wait too long, you know. So you can. So yeah, it's just, you know, just have your, you know, it's almost like, you know, you have to go to the dentist. Nobody wants to bring the car in really to have a service, you know. It's just, it's not fun, but it's something that if you consistently keep up with the maintenance and fix things as they arise, then you don't have this massive bill, you know, because you've let everything go, you know. So.
All right. Well, very good. That's it for the first segment of the ABQ show. Stay tuned. When we come back, we will have more conversations with Roger Wittler, Hans Wittler's automotive group, here on the ABQ show.
What is glamour? Frailty. What is desire? Diamonds. They say a life lived without passion is hardly worth living.
Ma'am? Ma'am? Ma'am?
Dang, this one made me feel all special.
High school sports are back. The 2018-19 season kicks off, and you could watch every ProView Network broadcast live on the NFHS network. Every moment, from every game, from every sport, including all NMAA state championships. Get your highly discounted monthly pass now. Go to ProViewNetworks.com and sign up. Watch New Mexico's best.
To win the race, I can't even explain how, like, in fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now talking about it. No matter where you go, you're an Indy 500 winner. The only way to be successful in racing is to stay on top of the technical edge, and we've done that with our dealership. So a lot of the technology in our service department and sales processes, I mean, everything is the very latest. That gives you an edge. That's being competitive in the car business. You can take it any way you want, but that's the truth.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened?
Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
Dreamstyle Remodeling has been wowing homeowners in New Mexico since 1989. Selected as Best Custom Home Remodeler for 3 consecutive years by readers of the Albuquerque Journal, we're also your exclusive provider for top home improvement brands like Renewal by Anderson, Four Seasons, Blaze King, and many others. Founded and headquartered in Albuquerque, Dreamstyle Remodeling is family-owned and now employs more than 500 people across the southwestern U.S. In fact, we've helped more than 60,000 homeowners improve their home in New Mexico, Arizona, California, Idaho, and West Texas. We're committed to providing a superior customer experience. We've earned 4.6 stars with hundreds of online reviews and have an A+ with the BBB. Dreamstyle Remodeling is a proud supporter of UNM Athletics. Visit our beautiful 10,000 square foot showroom at 1460 Renaissance Boulevard across from Sam's Club or dreamstyleremodeling.com to make your home remodeling dreams come true.
Welcome back to the ABQ Show. I'm your host, Wally Drangmeister, and we're visiting with Roger Wittler, Hans Wittler's Auto Group, about things cars. And when we went to break, I wanted to follow up just a little bit. You talk about maintenance and that role. And so we talked at the break. You do maintenance right, repairs become much more infrequent. Is that a fair statement?
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, if you catch these small things that can turn into bigger things later, then you've saved yourself some money in the long run.
Yes.
You know, the longer you let the things go, the more it builds up, and you just have this big project at the end of the, and then you get these massive bills on some of these European cars because the parts, everything is expensive on the European cars. I mean, they drive like no other cars. When you drive a European car, you get that feel for the road,
Right.
Unlike some of the less expensive, Asian cars, which are good cars, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But you just don't get the same feel when you drive one of those cars. So, and they have to maintain, the more performance, it's a sort of a trade-off. The more performance you have, the more maintenance these cars are going to take. It's a race car. You get 200 laps out of a race car. Right, and then you're pretty much done with that.
Yes.
So it's a balance. You want to have this good driving feel, but you also have, therefore you get more performance, and therefore you have, more cost involved.
Yeah.
So
now I know you've recently been emphasizing tires and front end alignment work, and there's a picture of a front end machine that you have. I was impressed. It's this huge piece of equipment. There's lasers, there's computers involved.
Yep.
Tires are underappreciated as a performance thing as well as alignment. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, when we started the second shop, or the first shop, I'm sorry, we decided, that at that point we wanted to do tires and alignment, which is an integral part of the vehicle and the way it handles. So you've got to have, if your alignment is wrong, you can damage your tires.
Right.
So, and then, especially when you get a new set of tires, you want to do an alignment, which a lot of these, discount tire, they'll put tires on there for you, but,
they don't do alignments.
They don't do alignments
Right.
there. So, and we can usually do as good or pretty close to as good as their pricing. Plus, we do have road hazard warranty. We offer everything they do, and you can, at my place, we can do an alignment afterwards. Make sure the alignment's right, so you don't, damage the tires prematurely.
Yes.
So, and the equipment that we have, we got the, the best equipment available at that time, but there's no reason not to. It slows you down if you have equipment that doesn't work at times, or whatever, So, and they have really good support. So if there's any problems with our machines, they come right out and fix it. And it's just, and you can find other problems with alignments also. If you have some sort of suspension problem, a lot of times it'll show up on alignment, right? If you, why is the car pulling? Why are the tires wearing, unevenly?
Right.
So it's it seems cliche, but Michelin used to say it's the only thing riding between you and the road, and it's true. It's true. There's been some real bad accidents because people had bad tires. They have a brand new fast car, but they didn't worry about the tires, and the tires, as they get older, they get hard, they crack, they don't have as much traction any longer, so it can cause accidents. So.
And New Mexico is nothing if not hot and dry. I mean,
Exactly, right.
and even if you have a car overnight in your garage, what a lot of people do, it's still out there when you're driving it around at work.
Rubber deteriorates over
Yeah,
time. You know,
exactly.
It's just a fact of life.
Now, talk to me. A lot of people are old car buffs, the aficionados.
Yeah.
I like the idea of old cars, but when I get into what would be like, a 70s Camaro that used to be, you get in that and you're like, wow, this doesn't drive nearly as well.
Right.
It's just a lower price new car. Just how far cars have come in the last 20 or 30 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the technology, even suspension-wise, you have, a lot of these European cars, they'll have a fluid inside the shock that they can send electrical charges into the fluid, which can stiffen the suspension. So, I mean, it also becomes more complicated to fix at that point too. You've got computer, you got a network, a whole, this massive network in your car. All computers talking to each other, and if one computer, fails, and it could bring down another computer. So, but yeah, the suspensions have really changed. I mean, the technology has been pretty incredible. I mean, you can change, suspension settings infinitely now with that type of setup. So.
Well, it all kind of was driven home for me when I was in high school. My dad bought this old Austin Healey, a British Roadster, and that thing was a lot of fun to drive. Silver City in between there and TRC is the Black Range. If you're a car person, a lot of fun to drive. Not always fun to be a passenger, particularly if you get motion sickness. But what struck me is my middle of the road American pickup truck handles better than that, 60s, 70s era Roadster in terms of hugging the road and, being to go high speed under control.
Racing, that brings all that technology to light. That's why all these car companies go racing. They figure out how the car handles best in racing, and then they take that technology and they build it into their consumer cars.
Yes.
So yeah.
Well, Roger, we're in a business group together. I've heard some things. You talked about something that, man, is this ever a problem? And it's interesting that you actually added is the key fob service. It's not the old days. You don't go and get a new key on these new cars. There is computers and things. And talk about that service, and then why you decided to get into that business. That's part of this kind of technology thing.
It all is all stemmed from car theft. I mean, that's where this all comes from. And especially in Europe, it's even worse in Europe. But that's where they come up. They have to outsmart the criminals to keep them from stealing cars. I mean, Hondas are a criminal's dream. You can go in there. You started with a screwdriver. So the European and the insurance industry has come in really hard, and they make these. They're trying to help make the cars harder to steal. So. You have a rolling, what they call a rolling code on your remote, just almost like your garage door.
Right.
So every code that comes out, every signal that comes out of that remote is going to be different from the one before.
Right.
So you can't copy that signal and start a car with it.
Right.
And then you've got to match it to what they call the immobilizer, which doesn't let the car start. Right. So you put the key in, you can put a different key in there, but it won't start because there's not a signal that matches to the immobilizer to release the starter.
Yes.
Right? They also have an alarm on them on top of that, a lot of cars, which, is sometimes sold and separate. But, most manufacturers, now you have to buy a key from the manufacturer.
Right.
And the problem I'm having with it is the cost of the keys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're becoming very, very expensive.
Well, I've seen some $300. Is that that's
$300 or more sometimes, And they, I mean, to me, it's your car. You've bought the car. You should be entitled to the,
another
extra
key.
keys. Why didn't you get that when you first bought the car, right? So I've been trying to figure out, and I'm a locksmith. I've got a LSID license.
Yeah.
So I'm certified for that, and it's legal for me to get keys. Some keys, Mercedes, I can get keys. Well, Mercedes actually you can't get keys for, other than you have to take your car to the dealer.
Right.
So I'm finding ways around that. Which if I know the customer, I get their license, and it's all fair and legal.
Yes.
And why charge $400 to $500 for a key, when it can be done easier with special tools, that are available out there.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's good to know.
I'm trying to help people out. That's I mean, I understand the $400 for a key. I mean, that just to me is way out of the ballpark. So, but.
Now, I know you have a division, Hans Wittler's Automotive Group, that buys and sells cars.
Yep.
It's a good lead into, what makes a good used car of the European cars that you tend to specialize in. What would people look at when they're buying one, when they look at it from the point of view that you as a mechanic that knows about reliability, maintenance, and all that goes?
Yeah, and that's the difficult thing with the newer cars. And every car has, every car line or every car model has different problems.
Right.
So it's really, really hard to find a good used car anymore.
Right.
So my philosophy is we go in, we find a car sometimes from customers. I have other sources too, but I try to find a good car, but then we fix everything.
Right.
That way you're, as a consumer, don't have to worry about, what's going to go wrong with this thing. And we have knowledge. I mean, there's no way anybody can know, I think, all the different car lines, what their, little intricate problems can be. But we specialize in European cars, and that's what I try to sell, is cars that, we've looked at, and, our reputation is on the line too. So it's part of Hans Wittler's, and it's our reputation on the line. So if I sell a bad car, that doesn't bode well for me or the customer. So we always try to fix everything available, and that way you can buy a good used car. You don't have to get a new car, take the big hit on depreciation when you drive it off the lot, right? And and then we stand behind our work too, So I just thought it was a good transition for Hans Wittler's,
Yeah. Now, you're right in the mainstream of car technology. A lot of things, more computers, more sensors, more automated controls.
Yep.
Let's leave the driverless car out for a minute. We'll talk about that another day.
Sure.
But what do you see coming over the next 5 to 10 years based on what we're seeing now and some of the early things that you're seeing amongst the highest end models out there in the market?
Right. Yeah, we're seeing more and more. I think we're going to see more of it. The lane departure warning, the car that brakes for you.
Yes.
All the automation on the cars. It may not be fully self-driving, and you'll still be able to steer the car, but they're gonna, it's all safety related. So, even the lighting. Some of the lighting on the new Mercedes is pretty incredible. I mean, they have LED lights in there, and they have hundreds of LED lights.
Right.
So they can tell that light exactly what to do. They can look around the car in front of it almost.
Right.
They can look underneath it. They can light up the side of the road. They can put and they also don't blind the oncoming car. They can stop the series of lights so it doesn't blind the oncoming car, which is pretty incredible.
So we've gone a long way from dim and bright.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just basically computer control based on the situation, whether you're in a straight situation and curves, traffic or not.
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Interesting.
And the steering also. The steering has really been pretty incredible. The way they sense, the lane moving from one lane to another. They're using old technology, but they're piling it on top of each other.
Right.
And it makes. I mean, it is a pretty good system.
Yes.
I don't want any car driving me around, but some people like that, and it's going to be safe.
Yes.
It's going to be safe.
Well, and my biggest concern with that is the vehicles I've been in that have had that in a very short period of time, and I've been like, yeah, this is actually quite nice. Some will vibrate the steering wheel if it thinks you're kind of getting out of the lane, and there's different sort of feedback loops. What I worry about personally is if your brain gets attuned to having all of that technology, and then I go back to a 1960s vehicle, I think it might make somebody really dangerous because their brain has been acclimated to having all this technology and it no longer exists anymore.
That could very well be.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's very interesting. Tell us where your shops are and how people can get a hold of you. Want to learn more about what you do at Hans Wittler's Automotive.
Absolutely. Our main location is on Elizabeth Street off of Central. If anybody's familiar with that area, there is a Dion's on the south side of Elizabeth. Everybody knows Dion's, so there's Dion's on the south side of Elizabeth. We're on the north side of Elizabeth.
Okay, perfect.
So, and our new shop is located on Wilshire, and that's in between Alameda and Paseo, and between the San Pedro and the freeway.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Hans Wittler's Auto Group, Roger Wittler. Roger, thank you very much.
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you for
it.
having
Very
me.
interesting.
I appreciate it.
That's it for this week's edition of the ABQ Show. We're glad you are with us. Hope to see you again soon.